Welcome in, everybody. It's time for this morning's Coffee and Football. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by Rudolph Jerry Hamilton as well. Where's your red nose, Jerry? CJ Vogel on Texas football. Tell us what you're drinking this morning, what kind of coffee you got, where you're checking in from. Blake Monroe is out for the next couple of days, I believe. He's got some honeydews before the holidays with the kiddos, taking them to various doctor's appointments, I believe. But it'll be myself, Jerry Hamilton, and CJ Vogel stepping in there. Guys, we're going to talk a little bit about the Longhorns and what happened yesterday. Liona Lefau, linebacker, headed to the transfer portal, as well as DeAndre Moore, it becoming readily apparent that he is headed to the NFL and or the transfer portal, even though he's telling Texas one thing. We'll talk a little bit about that. Let's get going. Jerry, what does this do for Texas's linebacking core against the Wolverines at Michigan?
Man, I mean, I need a piece of paper to show how thin it is, but I don't have one in front of me. But
wait, we've got one for you.
There it is. Okay, there it is. Yeah. So obviously, Jonathan Cunningham could be on this list as well. He's played some time at Star, worked out at Star as well as linebacker. Obviously, he'll be probably playing linebacker. Then you have Brady Sarkisian as well. But what it does is it moves Brad Spence to linebacker. And I'm actually very interested in that, to see that, because he was a active and productive player for Arkansas at both linebacker, and then they move him off the edge. I'm excited to see that from that perspective. Bo Barnes will get his most action he's had. There it says 24 snaps. Well, CJ, he could get close to that in this game. I mean, that's not out of the question. But it'll also see what Texas does from a versatility standpoint. What do they do with Jonah Williams in a game like this? Do they play a bigger nickel or a bigger dime at times? Probably not against Michigan and the way Michigan wants to play, but it's going to have to they're going to put their thinking caps on for this one. We can get to what it means next year as well, because obviously Texas will go to the portal and Tyler Atkinson's going to play a lot.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. CJ, I want to talk to you first about DeAndre Moore and his decision. This has been something that you've been reporting on for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, it was something that had been brewing behind the scenes for quite a while. And then, as the season came to a close in the regular season, I think he really just made the decision that, you know what, I'm ready for a new chapter in my life. And originally it was portal. Originally it was somewhere else to continue playing college football. I think he was talked into playing in declaring for the NFL draft. Look, if there's a year for a wide receiver who may not be a top-end guy to enter the NFL draft, it would be this year and not the 2027 NFL draft. And I think that's a large reason why he ended up trending in that direction as of the last week or so.
Is that what you're saying is the next year's 2027 NFL draft is supposed to be wide receiver loaded? Obviously, guys like Jeremiah Smith, Cam Coleman, some of those folks, right? Is that what you're getting at?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. All right. We're going to talk, guys, we're going to talk a little bit about today about what those things mean as it relates to the portal for the University of Texas as well. But first, I want to say thank you. And we're also going to be joined by Bob Shipley. Got to mention that. He comes on every Tuesday. We're going to talk to him a little bit about filling needs from the portal, as well as the Texas High School State Championships. But first, let's tell people about our friend Rick Vavro and his team over at Texas Road, your full-service solution for major road projects with the full support of multiple crews performing utility, dirt work, concrete, and asphalt. Texas Road provides on-site concrete through volumetric trucks for smaller volumes. They are able to complete road building in a high-profile environment. That is texas-road.com. Make sure you guys check them out if you have any major road needs across the state of Texas, but particularly in the Austin area. All right, guys. Thank you to them for sponsoring our Tuesday edition. I got to bring in our man Bob Shipley here to talk a little bit about this. Bob, Longhorns could be a little short at linebacker for this bowl game. Liona Lefau declaring for the draft. Your immediate thoughts on how they're going to handle the shortcomings or lack of experience, I guess, overall at linebacker?
Well, it was disappointing that Lefau, decided to make that move for us, as fans and supporters of the University of Texas. But I kind of look at it, when I was a little boy, we went out to the stock tank and my dad threw me in the deep end and said, figure it out, learn to swim. And I made it back to the shore. It might not have been pretty, but, we're going to see some young guys, and some guys, obviously, like you were talking about, that we haven't seen much, but it's also on the flip side of this, it's exciting to see some guys have an opportunity in a bowl game against a great opponent and see what they're made of, and I'm hoping and I'm counting on us seeing some surprises, some guys that, that come in because it's their chance to get some good tape on their play. They know that. They know everybody in the country, not everybody in the country, but there's going to be a huge following, of this game. Unfortunately, not all of it for good reasons, because I think a lot of them want to see the Michigan, aspect of how they're going to handle it. It's a good thing game day is not going to be there. Can you imagine the signs that would be in a crowd of game day?
Let's just bring our own signs and act like it's game day.
Well, I hope we show a little class, I really do, because it's unfortunate. It's tragic for his family, tragic for her family. It's tragic for the players. And for them to have at this point in time, they ought to have a lot of really positive, things coming out of their program. And instead, everybody seems to have forgotten about the great players that they have, and they focused on that. And so, we could see a Michigan team come in and really, win one for the Gipper kind of thing, or we could see some guys just kind of like, I'm tired of being made fun of. I'm tired of all the jokes and all that stuff. Let's get this season over with. I want to put some good plays on tape, so maybe I can hit the transfer portal or whatever. But it's going to be a very interesting game, in my opinion, for all those reasons and probably more.
Coach, obviously we talked about Lefau, DeAndre Moore news. We failed to mention other news. Arch Manning's returning next year. Were you just as floored and bamboozled as I was at this big breaking news?
No.
No, I was passed out. I couldn't believe it. I was out for 2 hours.
Yeah, no, I wasn't. I mean, you always know it's a possibility, but the guy stays the course. He always has. The Mannings have always stayed the course, and I think it's a vote of confidence in the staff and in what they're going to do to rebuild this team. Look, they've got to have some aces in the hole. CJ and I were talking about this, last night, on our live cast, that surely they've got some things lined up in the portal behind the scenes that we don't know about. And hopefully we're going to say, okay, I get it now, but just for face value, it looks a little bit strange, but I think Manning making that announcement will help recruiting. Yes. It'll help stabilize that locker room. It stabilizes the staff. And so we needed some good news, and that was the news that we needed.
Coach, I know we talked about it a little bit last night, but in the sense of players playing or opting out in this game, I know that wasn't really a big piece of that of your time on campus at the time, but obviously it is now. I mean, we had a great discussion last night about it. Hopefully, for the guys that still have decisions, we get to see them, but I just wanted to rehash kind of what we talked about a little bit last night with Michael Taft not playing, a couple of other players on the NFL decision market not playing as well. But one more time, I mean, for the folks who didn't tune in last night, where do you kind of stand on that?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to try not to spit and holler too much, but I have all the respect in the world for those guys and for the decisions that they make. We don't know why they make all the decisions that they make. We just know that they made the decision that was best for them. I understand that. Yeah. I'm not disappointed in Michael Taft. I'm a little bit disappointed in his decision because I think it could have been the cherry on top of the icing for his career to say, you know what? I grew up a Longhorn fan. I've been coming to games since I was little. I bleed orange. I gave everything I had to this program. This program has helped me have helped me have an opportunity to do the unthinkable for a walk-on to come in and be a 2-time All-American. And I'll be forever grateful for him for doing that. But I just feel like that he left a little bit on the table in terms of solidifying his legacy at the university, doing what other people we kind of expected him to do. And I shouldn't hold him to a different standard, but in my mind, right or wrong, I kind of do. And I felt like, you know what, this university has, gave me a shot, and Michael Taft will be a name that we'll remember for the rest of our lives. And he'll be, a great representative of the university. But, CJ and I talked about it last night. I think he's probably a day 3 pick, CJ does too. So, I'm not so sure when you look, I know in my situation with Jordan, he might should have left after his junior year. He had a huge year, but he and Colt decided to come back for unfinished business. Didn't quite get it done in the national championship game, but I can tell you this: Jordan's legacy that he left at the University of Texas is still paying multiple dividends in the business world and in speaking engagements and all those things, because he did, overcoming 2 years of injuries and all those things. Now, Michael Taft's hand certainly could play a part in this decision, and I certainly respect that. But, I'm just looking at it long-term, earning potential in the NFL versus earning potential being a Longhorn legacy legend that the likes we haven't seen in a long time. And so, the guy is kind of like, could I see Michael Taft getting into coaching and coming back to the University of Texas to be the head coach? Absolutely. I would love for him to represent our program. But he has obviously bigger aspirations, and he's going to take a shot at the NFL. And if we've learned anything from Michael Taft, it's don't count me out. Don't count me out, because I have what it takes mentally, psychologically, and physically to be a force in this game of football. And so I'm not by any means saying that he won't be an impact player in the NFL. He very well may be, and I hope that he is. I was just hoping selfishly that he would, just say, hey guys, come on, man, let's just go. Let's do it one more time. But I think, CJ, maybe as you or Rod pointed out last night, the last play of his career at University of Texas was one that we won't soon forget.
Right.
Hey, Coach, state championship week in Texas. I know that it's very meaningful to all you guys that coached a long time and gave a good part of your life to coaching in the state of Texas. What are these weeks like leading up to state championship games? For coaches and for teams.
Well, it's incredibly exciting. I can only speak in terms of one school town, because I never was a head coach at a situation where there were more than one school in town. So these you get down into these 5A, 4A, 3A, 2A. It's incredibly exciting for the whole town. You'll have a line of cars following the buses to the games. And it's just the biggest thing. They'll talk about it for decades. It's just, unless you're Carthage, it might take, you could talk for decades and never talk about the same game again, but it's such a great time of the year. And I always would tell people, when you've got people in the band that are wearing Santa hats, you've had a successful season and you're making a good run, and it's just magical. It really is. It's magical. But, looking at some of these, you're going to have, Duncanville and North Shore, that's going to be two great defenses, lining up against each other. And then in the other 6A game with
DeSoto and CE King.
DeSoto and King, not so much defense, but some great offense. It's going to be very entertaining, as the state championships games typically are and should be. It was South Oak Cliff and Randall. Wow, that's going to be a great game. Stephenville knocking off Salina. I love Stephenville. I've got one of my former staff members, coaches that coach with me on that staff. And, I pull for them unless the Brownwood Lions were playing them. And then I didn't, and I don't. But I was kind of pulling for that Salina team because they've overcome so much adversity and negativism, kind of like in a different way, kind of like what Michigan's having to endure. Nobody's really talking about the players and all that stuff, at least, outside of the Metroplex. So I was really hoping that they could come back and say, you know what? Yeah, we had some mistakes made on the staff, but don't forget we're a great football team, and they are a great football team. They were a great football team. They fell a little bit short to Stephenville, but that's going to be, a really good matchup. Carthage and West Orange Stark. I don't know that West Orange Stark has enough in their tank to stop Carthage. I don't think anybody does. And the most interesting storyline on that is, what's going to happen after that game?
Yeah.
How many times since Scott Surratt, how many more wins do you have to solidify yourself as one of the greatest high school coaches in the history of Texas high school football? So keep an eye on that. Grandview and Yoakum. Yoakum's going to be tough to beat. There's no doubt about that. Wall and Newton's going to be a great game. But here's one for you. Munster and Shiner. Win or lose after that game, there's going to be some beers going down.
Yes.
Yes. There's two things.
You should do a live stream in Shiner, Coach.
Yeah. There's two things that you see in those towns. You see Catholic churches and you see great football and you see a lot of beer drinking. So that's one post-game party you want to keep an eye on right there.
And by the way, Coach, to your point, after Carthage, after their season concludes, Coach Surratt's kids have all graduated from high school. And you know what that normally means for some high school coaches if they have other opportunities.
Yeah, that's right. And I stayed through. And when my youngest daughter graduated from Brownwood, then that's when I joined the staff with Matt Brown. It only makes sense. I was coaching in college at Abilene Christian until Jordan, got into middle school football. And then, I got back into coaching and thankful I was able to coach my kids. But, when they're all gone, and that's not why Scott Surratt coached, that's that. But it is what an incredible run to be able to have your kids in the program, your son's the quarterback. And yeah, when that's over with, it's going to be interesting to see what Scott Surratt does.
What's left after 11 state championships?
Yeah. Hey, Coach, got to ask you back to the Longhorns real quick. With Lefau's decision, that put 7 guys on defense that started against A&M on not participating. That Lefau, Anthony Hill at linebacker, Trey Moore at linebacker, Ethan Burke at defensive end, Manny Muhammad, Michael Taff, and Jalen Gilbo in the secondary.
Yeah.
You can say what you want about the turmoil at Michigan, but they don't have the turnover that Texas does right now. How big of an effect do you think that'll have on this game?
Well, it's obviously going to have an effect. And so what I say is score, baby, score. You keep your foot on the pedal and you don't let up because, but like I said, I'm hoping we're going to be pleasantly surprised by the play of some of these guys that finally have the spotlight on them. They finally don't have to worry about, getting the scraps at the end of the game, in a blowout win. They get to play in a meaningful game against a historically great program. And so I'm hoping those guys will step up, but we've got to score a lot of points. We've got to score a lot of points. And another thing, CJ and Rod and I talked about last night that I'm standing on the table and pounding my fist and saying, Rod was talking about these priority positions that demand the most money. I understand that, but our need is more than that. Running back is not a premium position, but for the Texas Longhorns, it is a can't miss premium position. You go out and get you a GoDaddy who can get it done. And at least one, maybe two. That's a new word. CJ and Ryan, they'd never heard the term GoDaddy before.
They haven't?
Oh, yeah. No,
Yeah, they just
that's
think it's a website.
I thought it was
that's-
Danica Patrick.
Yeah, it's not a website. Yeah, that's an old term, man. When you got a good one, you got a GoDaddy, you know, and you turn him loose and let him go. And we need that, you know, at the running back position, without a doubt. You know, we know what we have to do in the offensive line. We know what we have to do in the secondary. We know what we have to do at linebacker, you know, your tackle position and all that stuff. But good night. None of that's going to matter if we don't have a GoDaddy running back, you know, and maybe a couple of them. So I'm hoping that, you know, it's not like Texas is sitting here going, okay, when we can sign these guys in January, wonder what? No, they got plan. They're talking to agents. They're getting things done, you know, and all that. They're hopefully ahead of the game. They always have been ahead of the game. Although certainly I think maybe some of their evaluation and decision making last year, certainly hindsight's 2020, not taking an offensive lineman in the portal last year was, you know, a head scratcher for me. But of course, it wasn't at the time, because I figured they knew. But, you know, it hurt us not having a spring game because we couldn't see those guys. You know, we couldn't evaluate them ourselves. Not that we would do a better job of evaluation than the coaches, because they work with those kids every day. They saw something that I guess they were hoping the potential was going to be there that obviously wasn't in some positions. So, yeah, I'm pounding my fist on the running back. Let's get us a GoDaddy. You know, we've had such a great run of running backs, and obviously Sark having the worst running back production in his head coaching history. Certainly it's on the forefront of his mind too, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, somebody to join Trey Wisner, hopefully, because look, Trey's been banged up.
Yes,
you know, last couple of years too, and I think that they got to have two, to your point, that can really do it. Coach, I got to ask you this one thing, okay? And don't get mad at me. Don't get mad at me. You lost, what, 1 or 2 state championship games? 2.
Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, good morning, Coach.
Thanks for joining the show today, Coach.
And then
another
semifinals against Surratt in from Carthage that the game ended with us having the ball on the 4-yard line.
I was there.
Yeah, it's yeah, thanks. Appreciate that.
Well, this is my question for you.
I'll throw the
How
hat
much
for
do you
you.
still think about those? An old coach and the losses. Do you think more about those sometimes?
You know, there's no doubt. I never really took the time to enjoy the wins. You know, I didn't. The one, probably the most exciting game and the best win of my career, and the players playing at another level, was a semifinals in 2002 when we went and faced, you know, probably one of the best athletic teams that's at that classification in Jasper. Jasper had pitched 5 shutouts in a row, scored 0 points, going all the way back into district. Nobody gave us a chance. We watched them. They played 4-3 front, cover 3 every snap. They had great athletes, and they said, we're just going to let our athletes make plays. Well, I knew they weren't going to do that against us, because anybody that ran cover 3 against us was toast. And so we worked on man coverage. We worked on blitzing the quarterback. What they didn't know was Stephen McGee, our quarterback, had torn his MCL the week before in the quarterfinals to get Sinton. But they didn't know that because it happened in the middle of the 3rd quarter, probably, when the game was already well in hand, and they just thought we pulled him out, you know. So he had the best game of his career. So we lined up. We had a 6-7 tight end that went to Arkansas. And then we line up our wideouts, put them on the sidelines, almost out of bounds. And then Jordan between the tight end and the wide receiver, and obviously the outside receiver just ran up the sidelines. The tight end went up the left hash. Jordan went up the right hash. The safety jumped the tight end every time, and Jordan had 199 yards at halftime. and we scored 35 points at halftime. So that was the funnest game of my career. But the only injuries Jordan ever had was in 2 state championship games. That season, he had an ingrown toenail cut out, I think, on Wednesday. Oh. And then we played on Saturday at the Alamo Dome, and he had the what do you call it? The penicillin-resistant staph, MRS or whatever it's called. I don't know. He was in the hospital 3 days after the game. He couldn't even he couldn't run. He was just. And then his senior year, he returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown against Gainesville at the old Cowboy Stadium. And then the first defensive series, of course, he never came off the field. He kicked for us. He, returned punts and did it all. And he was starting cornerback. And they had about a 215-pound running back, and he tackled him and got a concussion and basically knocked himself out. And, of course, today's protocol, he would have been able to go back in the game. So he didn't even know where his locker was at halftime. It was unfortunate that happened. And then, of course, Stephen McGee having the torn MCL in the state championship game. The opponent knew it, and Stephen McGee was a great runner. And you take that element out of our game, and so it's sad. I think about it all the time. It's we knew the winner of us in Carthage in the semifinals that I was at Brownville was going to win. Cold Spring was going to be the opponent, and sure enough, Carthage beat them by 5 or 6 touchdowns, something like that, in the state championship game. So anyway, we had some great games, but I don't always remember those great games, except for that Jasper game in 2002. That's the one brings a smile to my face.
Coach, good stories always. This is the great thing about having coaches on here. You get great stories like that, man.
By the way, that Jasper team had Jory Adams and Red Bryant.
That's right. Yeah,
Red Bryant went on to have a great NFL career.
Yeah, they had 3 or 4 NFL guys on that team. And I tell you, last story, right before he went out, one of my coaches said, I've got the song we're going to play before we go out. And so I said, okay, man, I'm trusting you. Well, it was Eminem, and it was that song, If You've Only Got One Shot. I can't. But anyway, we turned the lights down low. We turned that song on, and there's a camera guy that I still see that works for one of the Austin stations who comes up to me and says, "That's the best effing thing I've ever seen in my life." All the hair on the back of my neck was standing up when that song was playing, because we took a stereo with us everywhere we went and played, music. And anyway, that was fun. But anyway, thanks, guys. Y'all have a good show.
Hey, you too, Coach. Thanks, Hook 'em Horns. We'll see you again on Thursday night, bud. All right, that's good stuff. Always, Bob's such a good storyteller. All right, got to tell you guys about Aura Frames about AG1 before we get going into other discussions today. We're going to circle back on that portal talk at both linebacker and what it means actually at wide receiver with DeAndre Moore going. Before we do, let's have our commercial break. AG1 is a daily health drink that combines your multivitamin, pre- and probiotics, superfoods, and antioxidants into one simple green scoop. It's honestly one of the easiest things to do every morning to support your body. This time of year gets busy fast, travel, long days, family stuff, and routines can get thrown off. That's where AG1 helps stay consistent. Drink it first thing in the morning while you're getting ready for the day, usually before coffee. It helps fill common nutrient gaps and supports your gut health, which is huge when life gets hectic. AG1 Next Gen has more vitamins and minerals than ever, and it fits perfectly into your daily routine. They've also got multiple flavors now: original, citrus, berry, tropical. AG1 also has their best offer. If you head to drinkag1.com/ontexas, you'll get a welcome kit, a morning person hat, a bottle of vitamin D3 plus K2, an AG1 flavor sampler, and you'll even get to try their new sleep supplement, AGZ, for free. That's drinkag1.com/ontexas for $126 in free gifts for new subscribers. Again, drinkag1.com/ontexas for $126 in free gifts for new subscribers. Also, I want to tell you guys about Aura. This is the picture frame that rotates. If you're anything like me, every year there's that one person you can never shop for. This year I'm skipping the chaos and I have it covered. Aura Frames is my last-minute lifesaver. Yes, I'm getting this for both sets of parents, actually. So if they're listening today, close your ears. We're giving them to my parents and my in-laws this Christmas because it's the one gift that actually feels personal. You can preload it with photos before it even ships, add a little message, and it shows up to their doorstep ready to go. You can even keep adding photos and videos from your phone all year long. It's literally unlimited. Just connect the frame with the Aura app and Wi-Fi, and you're set. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver mat frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, by using promo code ONTexas at checkout. That's Aura Frames, AURA, frames.com, promo code ONTexas. This deal is exclusive to listeners, and frames sell out fast, so order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Again, auraframes.com, promo code ONTexas. Jerry, tell us a little bit about Prize Picks, if you would.
This reads for CJ Vogel and Joe Z, who I hear is putting a house payment and 2 car payments on the Ducks to win the national championship. We make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Prize Picks is just simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you could cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. It's the best way to get in on sports action in more than 40 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and right here in this Lone Star State. Prize Picks has it all. They have college football, college basketball, the NBA, NFL, NHL, and even things like tennis and esports. So there's literally something for everybody. No matter what your sport is, you can find it at Prize Picks. Make your own picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code ONTexas to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code ONTexas, all caps, to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's Prize Picks. It's good to be right.
Jerry and CJ, Coach Shipley talked a little bit about the need for help at running back, right? And we agree with him. Texas needs to add at least one player via the portal at running back to probably handle or help handle the situation at running back based on just experience with Cedric Baxter leaving, et cetera. But what about the issues that yesterday prompted with the departures of Liona Lefau at linebacker and DeAndre Moore at wide receiver? We talked a little bit already about Lefau, but what do y'all think this means in the portal? CJ, I'll start with you. What you think they need to do? I've got some news on it as well when I want to finish up here.
Yeah, well, it's twofold for me. One is kind of short term, one is long term, right? Whenever you look at the wide receiver position for the bowl game, obviously someone's going to need to step up in that position. Right now, I would imagine that guy is Dalen McCutcheon. I think we all want to see more of the freshmen as well. But will there be snaps? Will there be opportunities to get those guys on the field? But then I start looking ahead to 2026. And I mean this for the offseason. I mean this for spring football, summer conditioning, everything in between now and week 1 of next football season. But Texas right now, look, there's no denying Liona Lefau and DeAndre Moore were great locker room guys. And they were going to be walking in as fourth-year seniors into big leadership positions. They already were in big leadership positions on this team in 2025. So I'm looking ahead to next season saying, who steps up and takes that leadership void, right? And I think that's something at times this team struggled with, having been so young throughout the season, going on the road, making sure that, one, the energy was there, that, two, the bounce back was there, that you had somebody in the huddle that was telling you, hey, we've got this, let's turn it up a notch. If it wasn't Michael Taft, who was it at times? And so I'm starting to see that as a potential opportunity for a lot of these young guys to earn their keep with this Texas 2026 team. Because look, DeAndre Moore was a fantastic locker room kid. We've talked about it all the time. Every spring we go out there for that first practice, and it's DeAndre Moore walking up by himself to get extra reps on the jugs, to just be around the facility, whatever it is. He's the first guy there. Leading by example has to mean something in this room. Now who takes that spot to fill his void? That's something I'm looking forward to hearing a little bit more of as we have, about 15 days until kickoff against Michigan. They're on the practice field. Who's that vocal guy and leading by example? I'm excited to hear more about that as we get closer to this game and obviously as we go into the offseason as well.
Well, Jerry and CJ, point taken, but I want to say this. Anthony Smith was already wearing the green dot helmet in practice this past week. That's something that we've learned. That could have precipitated some caution there by Liona Lefau, by the way. I really want to focus on linebacker as opposed to just the leadership point, because I would say this. I felt that the offense lacked leadership early more so than the defense, because not only was Michael Taft there, but there were guys, Anthony Hill, Lefau. There were some guys that had Burke, Simmons. They all had some time. What kind of linebacker do you think Texas is looking for here, Jerry? Because they definitely are going to go to the portal, even with Tyler Atkinson coming in, Bo Barnes being a sophomore, et cetera, Cozy Akpala. What kind of linebacker do you think Texas is looking for?
So the way I saw Lefau from high school through college was a really good in between the tackles linebacker against the run. I think what will Texas look for in the portal? They already have it coming in Tyler Atkinson. They have it in Anthony Smith. Guys who can make plays outside the numbers, who can drop in coverage against the speed of the SEC, but in the run game, not just play in the box, but also make plays outside the hash marks and numbers, and has the sideline speed. I think we're going to see Texas try to get faster with experience, faster in the portal at linebacker. And that can be as a pass rusher. That can be as a guy who can just go chase and pursue the football. But I think you're going to see that experienced linebacker in the portal. I think you're going to see speed, the play sideline to sideline in the SEC. To go with Anthony Smith, young Tyler Atkinson, Bo Barnes as a sophomore, I think that's what they're going to be looking for, guys.
I agree with you on that, because we got to remember it's not just Lefau that they're losing. They're losing Anthony Hill, who's their disruptor, right? And so if you look at it from that standpoint, sure, Anthony Smith, he's a really good player. I'm not trying to denigrate him at all, but they lack that disruptor with Anthony Hill gone. Now, maybe Tyler Atkinson can be some of that early in his career at Texas, but who can be that guy next year for sure? And I've used this term going back, 3-6 months now. Texas is all in as it relates to 2026. And so I don't expect them to go light at linebacker. I think they're going to go big game hunting at linebacker and just about every position. So keep that in mind as we monitor the portal. I don't even think the big name guys have gone in the portal yet.
Right.
And that's the reality. So let's wait and see on that. All right. Another thing I want to mention, I did mention yesterday at the end of the video, Jerry and I did, that we believe Liona Lefau is likely headed to BYU. And this is not one thing I want to make sure of. Liona Lefau was a good Longhorn, worked hard, gave his 100% effort. Wish him nothing but the best as he and his family move forward. Period. All right. Next piece, wide receiver. With DeAndre Moore, I think that we all wondered, is there a potential log jam there, particularly if Texas goes out and gets a receiver, a type 1, A1 receiver out of the portal? There would be if DeAndre Moore were returning. Now, if they go and do it without DeAndre Moore, there's no log jam theoretically. Is that kind of how you all see the loss of DeAndre Moore? Even though, look, he had 38 receptions this year, 39 last year. His numbers went up from 11 yards a catch in 24 to 14 yards a catch and 25 with Arch. Is this an opportunity for Texas? I think it is, for them to get better at wide receiver. CJ, Jerry, what do you think?
I'm not going to say better. I'm going to say different, because I think DeAndre Moore is a really good player. I think, look, if Arch hadn't struggled some at times this year, he might have had 700 yards receiving and missed the game. because there were some wide open opportunities where the ball did not get to him that kept him from making a lot of explosive plays. But he also had some key drops as well. So we talked about this yesterday, Bobby, in the video, that I think one thing maybe you see, could it be Jermaine Bishop? I don't know if he'll be ready, but you get experience out of the portal. Somebody who maybe after the catch has a little more quickness, lateral juice. So I think they can get different. And it doesn't mean necessarily, oh, this guy's so much better, but maybe different. So look, that's kind of what I'm looking at. Is DeAndre Moore was silky smooth route runner, so he had deceptive speed. He got behind people when you didn't think he would. And he had the ability, as you saw against Georgia after the catch, to do something if he made the first guy miss. Again, though, what do you get somebody that's better in a phone booth, maybe better in a phone booth that can maximize after the catch in a different way. So that's kind of what I'm looking at for Texas. They don't need to go get more size at receiver now. They have Ryan Wingo, they have Livingston, they have Emmett Mosley, who I think is going to be terrific next year. So what do they need? They need the perfect player to go with that. And that's going to be somebody that can play in the phone booth a little bit to me and make people miss.
Yeah, I sit in that same spot. Different is kind of the same adjective I'd use to describe Jerry, because look, you'd like to take the trade-off of a lightning quick addition. I think someone with the catch after the catch ability, like a Jermaine Bishop, would be someone who maybe not right away in 26, but down the road absolutely fits what we've thought Steve Sarkisian's wide receiver mold was. But without DeAndre Moore, you got to find somebody immediately to come in and do the dirty work. And that's something that I've always thought was very underappreciated with DeAndre Moore's game, is he's, hat on a hat guy when it comes to the quick game. And that's not something you find regularly with high level, highly touted, receivers out of high school. Why? Because they were always the ones receiving screens or the underneath ball. So to have that selflessness, I think is something that is very difficult to find right away. So that's something immediately I'm looking at, saying who fills that void. Is it just as easy as saying Parker Livingston or Emmett Mosley? We've seen both of them out front, especially when it's Ryan Wingo catching those screen passes. So that to me is, there's a give and take. You trade, a lot of the dirty work for potentially a guy who after the catch ability is. How does that balance next year? Is something I'm interested in seeing the staff kind of maneuver around.
I hear y'all on the make you miss ability. Somebody that can run around. Like, I go back to what is the number one play you remember when you think of DeAndre Moore? Making the Georgia guy miss in the open field one-on-one when they went all blitz, right? What if they could have somebody that's a little bit better at that than DeAndre Moore?
Right.
How many more times would they have slipped that tackle? And so, and by the way, I want to say this. You know who DeAndre Moore reminds me of now that his career at Texas is over? And I didn't say this before. Reminds me a lot of Quan Cosby. Definitely first to practice, reliable, not necessarily prototypical receiver size, right? Or any kind of prototypical receiver that you would just draw up, but a really good player. So we'll talk more about that. But I think Texas is going to go for somebody that's a little bit different, maybe presses people downfield still as well. Because as I was looking through the numbers yesterday, guys, with Arch Manning, and I was going back and comparing numbers between him and Quinn Ewers, and just what they did, the amount of downfield throws that Arch Manning attempts compared to Quinn Ewers is astronomical. I mean, look, they had the same amount of throws. He had the same amount of catches virtually last year, DeAndre Moore did, as he did with Quinn Ewers, yet he averaged more than 3 yards more per catch. And that was the same among all receivers.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, I think that Texas needs to lean into that with whoever they get in the portal and in 2026. So we'll see.
And I want to add to that, Bobby. Think about how many times he was missed that would have been explosive plays. especially early in the season.
Yeah,
I mean,
not just
his
him.
numbers have been big.
Yeah. Hey, Jerry, another topic we need to get to that's newsworthy. Malachi Lee, we've been following and tracking his situation, the offensive lineman out of Honolulu's Kamehameha High School, 6'6", 320. Have you heard anything new? He signed with Michigan. We thought he may not be ending up there. Has there been anything new? Texas was his second choice that you're hearing right now.
Yeah, Texas was the only school that was really up in contact with him right up till signing day. Does that mean if he jumps in or gets his release that he's automatically going to Texas? We think Texas would be a front runner, but as expected, other teams are going to try to come in there and see what they can do. He made official visits to Alabama and Georgia along with Michigan and Texas in the process. Alabama lost Sam Utu prior to signing day. He flipped, so they obviously would have an offensive line tackle spot. So they could try to come in. I think the interesting thing will be is with Malachi Lee is, look, does he look out? If he asks for a release, the first answer is how quick does he do something? Because he's a midterm enrollee. So it's going to have to be quick. It's not like he can go take a long time with this decision. So it really leads you back to who did you have relationships with? And are those guys still at the schools you were at? So that would lead you down the path of Texas and Alabama, because I think Georgia's full boat on the high school offensive line. So it leads you down the path of Texas and Alabama. Well, Texas was a school that he strongly was considering still leading into signing day. Does that mean Alabama couldn't get him? I'm not saying that. But I'm saying if he asked for that release, as many expect, and we've heard it was likely, but we still got to wait until he actually does it, right? That Texas would begin as the front runner. But again, I want to say this. Really, he has to make a decision pretty quick because he's a midterm enrollee. So I think Texas had the most conversation with him after his Michigan commitment. Texas recruited him all the way up through signing day. I think whether it's Flood or Nansen, there's some really strong relationships there with Texas. I would put Texas as the front runner if he opens it up, but I'm not saying it's a done deal because other people will try to get involved.
All right. Hey, here we go, guys. Last commercial break here before we get going. Coming up, I want to talk. We've got a number of different questions in there. Get your comments in. We'll be addressing those as well. Talking a little bit more about Texas versus Michigan, what the spread has done, which is kind of defying odds given the fact that Texas has lost 7 defensive starters in this game against Michigan. But first, let's talk about our friends over at Duck Camp. If you don't mind, Duck Camp is gear made for folks who live for being out there, whether that's in a duck blind at sunrise or on the 40 acres for a Saturday kickoff. Born right in Austin, Duck Camp builds best-in-class hunting and fishing apparel that also works just as well for a full day in the field as it does for a long day of tailgating. If you haven't visited duckcamp.com, I encourage you to do so. We absolutely love their stuff, whether it's sun protection shirts or warm hoodies, to their iconic game series hats that I wear all the time that feel like instant classics. Duck Camp gear is ready for football season, hunting season, every season in between. Get out there, stay out there, and hook them. Shop Duck Camp at duckcamp.com. Use promo code. Now, this is for Christmas, guys. Use promo code ONTexas25 for 25% off anything in the store. That's ONTexas25 for 25% off anything in the store. Again, ONTexas25 is that promo code. Also want to tell you guys about our friends at Warby Parker. I use these glasses every day. My wife loves them. Says they're much better than the ones I used to have. If you're like me, when it comes to eyewear, you need a high quality, easy solution that's also affordable. That's why I use Warby Parker. Easy, affordable, and the selection just can't beat. Glasses start at $95, and they include prescription lenses, including progressives if you need them like I do, with anti-reflective, scratch-resistant coatings. Add a pair and save 15% when you purchase 2 or more prescription pairs of sunglasses or regular glasses. Free shipping and free 30-day returns as well. Warby Parker has more than 300 locations across the country to help you find your next pair of glasses. But you can also just head over to warbyparker.com/OnTexas right now to try on any pair virtually. That's what I did. I actually just uploaded my photo, moved through the various lenses or various frames and looked at them and found the one I liked. It's a really cool feature. That's warbyparker.com/ontexas. warbyparker.com/ontexas. Jerry, tell us about our friends over at Vaughn Lane, and stay out of those TSA lines if you're traveling in between big Texas cities this holiday season.
Holiday travel made effortless. Yes, as football season wraps up and Christmas and New Year's are here, it doesn't have to be stressful travel for you, whether you're heading to see family for Christmas, New Year's somewhere to see friends, maybe go to a party with some friends. Vaughn Lane makes getting there easy. You'll board in minutes at a hotel terminal located just minutes from your destination and settle into one of just 22 oversized seats. More space, more comfort, no crowds. Enjoy Wi-Fi, snacks, beverages, and hot towel service on every trip. And on selected routes, savor complimentary meal service delivered right to your seat. Vaughn Lane takes the grind out of regional travel, those TSA lines, as Bobby mentioned, so you can focus on what really matters, the people and experiences waiting at the end of the ride. Book today at vaughnlane.com and use code OTF25 for $20 off your first ride. I'm telling you, those Christmas and New Year's trips they're filling up fast. Vaughn Lane, what is it? It's a private jet on wheels. They now serve Austin, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, Fort Worth, Plano, the Woodlands, Nashville, Memphis, Atlanta, and Knoxville. Only thing I ask, if you're on a Vaughn Lane bus after New Year's, is do not be hammered and projectile vomit all over it. It will stink, and that will ruin everybody's ride.
Okay, Jerry. Thank you so much, guys.
Yes,
appreciate that as well. All right, so let's get to some questions and comments. Let's start with this. Interesting comment from Antoine, I thought. The transfer portal has helped some, but has quietly ended as many, if not more, football careers. Mm-hmm. Last year, over 3,000 kids went into the transfer portal. Like only 1,000 or 1,500 found homes. To Antoine's point, a lot of people need to remember that. I don't think that's going to happen for the kids that are transferring out of Texas, by the way. Different category, but it is a cautionary tale, I think, and good comment there from Antoine. Jerry, this one's from M. Libs. Jerry, do you think DeAndre Carter, the big offensive tackle or offensive lineman from Auburn, is someone Texas might target in the portal? They looked at him when he was in high school. What about now, bud?
Finished second, I believe, out of Mater Dei. Finished second to Auburn in that recruitment. I don't think so. I think Texas is looking for guys who have some starting experience. I think that is the number one thing, or have played and have starting experience. I think that's the big thing Texas is looking at and on the interior of the offensive line. As Bobby said, Texas all in on 26. All in on 26 doesn't equate to guys who may have potential but haven't hit the field yet. Texas has some really good young linemen they like that redshirted this year. I don't think they're adding that to the mix. I think they're adding experienced players.
Fair. All right, this one from Coach Top. Was DeAndre Moore actually better than Jonte in hindsight? Better culture fit, no doubt. No doubt.
Jonte's to your point, Jonte was a talented guy, but I think Jonte, that the rock bottom he hit may have been the best thing that ever happened for him.
Yeah.
Both as a football player and probably in life. Maybe what happened to him needed to happen, because if that causes him to turn the corner. But look, it was time for him to move on from Texas and Texas move on from him, where he was at in his life. And I'm glad it feels like, or looks like from afar, he's gotten it together.
At least more together than he had it.
Yeah.
The
people around him scare me still, but the kid himself seems to have rebounded.
CD Zebra. This is good. Good morning, gentlemen. If my Grandview Zebras, I love that nickname, Grandview Zebras win, I'm sending y'all each a zebra cap. It's a great day to be a zebra. Who does Grandview have again in the playoffs?
Oh gosh, I'd have to look, but I want the hat anyways. Even if you lose in the hat, what are you talking about here, man?
You look great in some zebra print, Jerry.
You don't just have to win this in the hat. I'll wear any high school hat. They are playing Yoakum. Yo, you're not going to win. Good luck for you. But still send the hat.
Jerry.
Sorry.
Jerry, you're dashing his hopes.
Sorry. Yoakum just put up 70. Like I said this on our high school show, which Coach Shipley, Coach Buchanan, Carl Padilla, Blake, and myself are going to film later today. Yoakum is a high school team that is if you come out of that district, you're really well prepared for the playoffs because you face every type of offense and every type of team. There's very few districts nowadays in the day and age of spread football where you play against an option team, you play against a spread team, you play against a Hitchcock team that has extraordinarily fast skill players, you play against some big old country boys that'll want to lean on you. That district, when you come out of that district, Columbus won state, Hitchcock's made runs, here's Yoakum, Hallettsville has made runs. It's because they play every style in that district, and they play speed, and they play big kids at the small school level that are very physical. Those teams are prepared. Yoakum put up 73 last week. Send me the hat anyways, even if you lose by 20.
He's angling for the hat, man.
Yeah.
Dante Payne. Bobby, with all the departures, Texas will hit the portal hard. Is it realistic for Sark to construct a championship caliber defense in January? I'm going to say yes. And part of the reason why is because I think they've recruited really well. There's no doubt in my mind that Texas is an extraordinarily talented team under the, what's the best way to put it? Beyond just that first string, right? Colin Simmons will be back. Right now, Jelani McDonald is leaning to come back. You've got other guys out there that Lance Jackson, Alex January. You're still trying to see if they can get Hero Canoe to come back an extra year. There are a number of guys out there. Grayson Littleton, Xavier Filson. I mean, there are guys that they have that are younger, but I think they can if they get the right pieces. Cade Phillips is another guy at corner. If they can find another corner, if they can find a safety with experience, if they can find a linebacker that they think is a plus linebacker, not just a replacement for Lefau, but maybe somebody that gives them even more upside. I think that they can. CJ, what do you think? You think they can construct a championship level defense through the portal in part because of what they've done in high school recruiting that are now starting to come to fruition a little bit? They're showing the fruits of their labor.
Yeah, and we talked about this a little bit last night with Rod and Coach Shipley and I. Texas has a great base of its premier positions, right? You look at cornerback, you think, a Grayson Littleton and Cade Phillips, throw Kobe Black in there. That's a great base for what you want to build on. You're excited for what they can develop into as sophomores, right? On the defensive line, obviously, Colin Simmons, Lance Jackson, Justice Terry. I mean, we didn't see a whole lot of Myron Charles or Josiah Sharma, but those are two guys that I think we're all excited about seeing develop and grow. So, they don't need to go out and get 7 guys on the defensive line again this year. Could they add a marquee guy or two? Yeah, absolutely. As we've talked about, Bobby, and you've mentioned it a number of times, almost every stream that I've been on with you, we know Texas is going all in. Well, folks, listen, we'll see. But point is, they have a great base where it allows them to go big game hunting rather than finding 5 or 6 guys for that same amount. That's something that I think, one, they need to make sure that it's done by January, right? Because they won't have the luxury of a second portal window. But 2, because they've already solidified a very high floor with the talent that they've recruited out of the high school level, now they can be very selective and choose who they want to add out of the portal that will really elevate the ceiling. I think they absolutely can.
I want to add this. If you have a top 5 potential pick at one edge and a guy that we think will be a first-round pick in Lance Jackson if he stays healthy and keeps going the direction he is at the other edge, Alex January is looking like an NFL draft pick. If Justice Terry can get up to into the 290s, he is going to be a force as a 3-5. Then CJ said Texas loves Myron Charles and Josiah Sharma, right? They'll get a big over-the-ball player as well in that class, but there's a lot of NFL-level talents on the defensive line. and you could have 2 first-rounders at your edges. So, yes, you can absolutely construct a championship caliber defense. I do think the secondary in the portal is going to be important. And I think at linebacker, look, we know Texas is going to the portal linebacker, but Tyanthe Smith's going to be a really good player as a junior.
Yes.
Tyler Atkinson, we've all seen him. I mean, that guy's got a chance to be a tremendous player. And some linebackers can play as a freshman because being able to get in early. So I think when you have that level defensive line, I think you always have a chance. I'll say that because Texas may be a better pass rushing team next year than they were this year, especially since Anthony Hill wasn't used as a pass rusher enough.
All good points, Jerry. You mentioned Brad Spence moving into that Trey Moore role as well. So keep that in. Terrence Jones here. Hey, guys, I may be late, but what's the word on Trey Wisner returning? We actually haven't talked about this, so this is a great point, a great question, Terrence. Look, I think that Trey has been trying to figure out what he's going to do next. I mean, and he should. He's looking not only at the NFL, but also these days you got to look at the transfer portal, everything all told. He's also just now meeting with Jabbar Jalouk, right? The new Texas running backs coach. There are a lot of irons in the fire, a lot of balls up in the air. CJ, what's the latest you've heard on Trey Wisner?
Yeah, let me be clear. I've heard both sides, right? I've heard NFL, I've heard everything, right? So it's still up in the air. To your point, I did hear that his meeting with Jabbar Jalouk went really well. He said I've heard that from Trey Wisner that, look, in regards to him and Jabbar Jalouk, it sounds like that initial meeting and that energy that Jalouk brought is something that felt a lot like Tashard Choice. And if you remember, Tashard Choice and Trey Wisner had a fantastic relationship. That energy and that trust was a big reason why he ended up at the University of Texas. So that's something right now that has Trey considering all of his options. Of course, it sounds like the last word that I've got was that Trey was leaning ever so slightly to a return to Texas after that initial meeting with Jabbar Jalouk. It went really well, giving Trey a lot to think about. But we'll see because, as you know, any of these decisions can flip on its head at any moment. But that initial meeting went really well. That's the last update I have on Trey Wisner.
Yeah, and I'm sure NIL is going to play a role too.
Yep.
I mean, it's got to, right, these days, this day and age. Jason Hablinski, several have announced their intent to portal. Do we know of any Texas that's had contact interest in, or do we have to wait until January 2nd? Obviously, agents work outside the lines. Jason, so I don't know how to say this without, there are guys that agents right now are bringing to Texas and every school in between Sacramento State and Notre Dame, okay? Agents have these discussions full out with all personnel directors, okay? That's their job. That's the personnel director's job, okay, by the way. However, or the general manager, whoever it may be. However, until they actually go in the portal, there could be no direct contact with the player themselves.
Yep.
And that's when you find out, that's when the rubber meets the road. And I try to explain this. So Jaden Ball is a perfect example, and we need to get into this probably as our final topic for today. The number of elite quarterbacks yesterday that went in the portal. Okay. Well, one of them was DJ Lagway, the quarterback at Florida. Jaden Ball is the running back at Florida. And a lot of people have said, oh, well, Texas hired Jabbar Jalouk, the Florida running back coach, to come coach at Texas. Jaden Ball has taken all Florida mention off of his Instagram and social media pages. He must be going in the portal. Okay. Not true. He is still clearly negotiating all ends of the spectrum right now, including with Florida, who is really the only team he personally can talk to right now. Now, his agent can talk to anybody, but Jaden Ball can only talk to one. And so until guys go into the portal, and that's January 2nd. Now, some guys will announce for the portal right now, but DeAndre Moore personally, for example, if he were to, or Liona Lefau personally can't be talking to BYU. His agent can. And so I say all this because, yes, there are some guys I know of that Texas is likely to target. when the portal becomes available. But you can't do that until January 2nd. So you're not going to go out there and say, oh, this guy's definitely Texas or XYZ, because it's just not the case yet. You can't talk to him till the 2nd. Unless, of course, your agent is getting out there and talking about, hey, we mentioned those quarterbacks. It wasn't just DJ Lagway. It was also the quarterback at from Lake Dallas.
Sorsby.
Cincinnati. Yep. Sorsby at Cincinnati. Yep. He went in. Who was the other one that went in yesterday? I'm missing one big name.
Aiden Childs from Michigan State was another.
Yeah. So I want to hit this. Sorsby is going to be the big winner out of that group. He's the best player.
And Raiola.
And Raiola went in. Sorsby's the best player of those three.
Yep.
Pretty clearly. And there's a lot of people that are attaching Texas Tech to him.
Right.
He would be better than what Texas Tech played, whether it's Hammond or Baron Morton this year, in my opinion. They would actually upgrade their quarterback if they got him. Lagway is going to be so interesting because that was a Florida decision. And let's see who truly has interest in him and at what price tag they're going to ask for, because he is not going to be worth what he asks. Not 20 touchdowns and 20 interceptions and multiple injuries. That it's going to be interesting to see which direction that goes. A lot of people, somebody in the chat asked about Sam Leavitt. He's been attached to Miami, Indiana, LSU. Two things with Leavitt. One, I think he's going to be out for spring with the foot injury that ended his season. And I think the other thing that'll be interesting with him when people make decisions is his brother's now trying to get into the agent business. And what does that mean for when you negotiate with him?
Interesting. Raiola, we heard anything on Raiola, the Nebraska quarterback whose dad was an assistant coach there, played in the NFL? We heard anything there, guys?
I actually heard about a week and a half ago. Watch for Oregon. If Dante Moore were to declare, and right now Mel Kiper, actually, I know we all love Mel Kiper, right, has him as the number one quarterback in the 26th draft. They said, look at Oregon as a potential fit, and I think it would match.
Wait, time out. Dylan Raiola as the number one quarterback in the NFL draft?
Dante Moore.
Oh, okay. I was going to say. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Hey, CJ, you just got Joe Zeden, the opposite of excited. He does not want Dylan Raiola.
Well, I don't know. I see he's got the eye emojis going up right now. So maybe he just perked up from his desk early morning, get the heart rate beating just a little bit. But look, you see what Oregon does, and that's quick. Yeah, underneath game. That's exactly what Dylan Raiola does, almost too much with the check downs and stuff like that. So I think it would be a fit to a degree. Will it be an upgrade? I don't know about that.
No chance.
Yeah. So here's what I had. Basically, Sorsby is what I behind the scenes is debating actually between the NFL, and probably Texas Tech, because he could actually vault up draft boards, kind of like Tyler Shuck did.
Yeah,
actually. And then Dylan Raiola, I haven't heard any names. Y'all said Oregon. Lagway, two teams I had heard are Baylor and Houston, but Lane Kiffin, the LSU coach, retweeted the note that he was going in the portal. And then Aiden Childs, you mentioned from Michigan State. Somebody actually mentioned USC with him, which that doesn't. Maybe I'm wrong there.
The thing that would be interesting with, I don't see Lagway at Houston because Keyshawn Henderson signed there, and Michael Bishop, his high school coach, literally just resigned from School of Sciences in Houston and was hired by U of H. That would be a tough one for me. Baylor makes a lot of sense, though.
Yeah, Dad played there.
Yep.
His dad played there. All right, next question, Rocky Poor. Bobby, the NCAA lost a case regarding show cause for coaches. They did. It's a couple days ago. They literally have no teeth now. I don't know that now is even necessary. They haven't had teeth in a while. What is their point of even existing? They can't enforce anything. Rocky, yes. That I think all of what you're talking about is the problem right now, and why you still have some schools like USC that are running amok. They don't They don't believe in the College Sports Commission. They don't believe in rules that the NCAA sets as it relates to anything. And so why is it even involved there? Why are some teams playing by those rules, those what seem to be arbitrary rules, by the way, that the NCAA sets, even though they come out of committees? I can't tell you that, Rocky. And I think it's a great question.
Yeah.
Hey, well, next thing. I want the wide receiver from San Jose State, Quentin says. Danny Sakuro, is that his name, CJ, that you like?
Yeah.
You remember talking about him during the season.
Yeah, Danny Scudero, absolute dog. Now, how much of it is him being a fantastic player versus that system? Because if you go back a year ago, Nick Nash in that exact same position ended up being a Biletnikoff finalist, ended up getting picked by the Falcons, I believe, in the 3rd or 4th round. Point being, Scudero this year led the country with 1,290 receiving yards. He was targeted 17 times against the Longhorns week 2 in DKR. They go at him almost every play when they throw the football. They have 2 wide receivers that are really talented. But, yeah, talented football player, and we talk about the make you miss ability. He's got some of that in his route running and as well as after the catch.
You think he would be a good fit?
Yes, I wonder what his price tag would be.
Well, Texas is gonna be aggressive. We'll see if he's an A1 guy or if he may be an A2 guy.
Yep.
Who knows, right?
Yeah.
All right, I need to say thank you again to our sponsor of every Tuesday's Coffee and Football. Those are our friends at Texas Road. Our friend Rick Vavro, the engineer, and his guys at Texas Road, your full service solution for major road projects in and around the Austin area with the full support of multiple crews performing utility, dirt work, concrete, and asphalt. Texas Road provides on-site concrete through volumetric trucks for smaller volumes. It allows them to complete road building in a high-profile environment. Reach out to the folks at Texas Road. Also, Rick is a entrepreneur of sorts. Check out his bar out in Jonestown, Texas. If you're out near the lake, visit the Lone Star Bar. 27-degree cold brew out there at the Lone Star Bar. Again, Texas Road, LLC. Thank you, Rick, and your team for all your help putting on Texas football's Coffee and Football every Tuesday morning. All right, I got time for a little bit more chatter here, guys, before we get going. Jerry and CJ, your thoughts on where Texas sits. I kind of want to encapsulate the day with the moving forward of DeAndre Moore to the NFL draft, we believe, as well as Liona Lefau to the transfer portal. Jerry, I'm going to give you final thoughts here.
Well, I think Texas sits in a great position to be super aggressive and go all in on the portal for the 26th season. Now it really is going to come down to who jumps in the portal. That are some guys behind the scenes that people think may jump in the portal. That's what all this is going to come down to for Texas and other programs that are really pointing towards the portal and going all in on their team next year. We hear a lot of things behind the scenes. Now it's going to come down to how many guys actually jump in the portal that these schools want to have jump in the portal. If they do, I think Texas is positioned really well to make a lot of hay in the portal.
CJ?
Yeah, no, the next month is going to be really exciting because, one, you get the portal opening up, but 2, you get those talented freshmen that, we've talked about for the last year coming to campus as well. How do they mesh on top of what's kind of the return vibe look like for this team? So it's exciting. I know that the month of December this year is a little different than what we've seen the last 2 years, but we get a little bit of a longer runway to then start looking ahead to 2026. And right now, I just can't help but imagine and think about what these portal moves are going to look like for the University of Texas, because we've said it for a while. We believe Texas is going to be uber aggressive when it comes to the portal. Who are those names? What does that look like? How much is the turnover? It's all unknown for now, but it's a lot of excitement building up for when it eventually opens.
Hey, guys, do we think there's been any other position added to the portal needs in the last couple of weeks? Or do we think everything remains the same?
I'll just say this, that Lefau doesn't change my mind. And because frankly, I think they were going to try to sign over him regardless.
Yeah.
DeAndre Moore doesn't, although I think it makes it look how I was going to finish out my conversation, I guess, is this. There's no log jam now at receiver or linebacker. There are straight paths to the field for someone coming in from the portal. There's also a straight path for a guy like Tyler Atkinson that I think is going to be a very early contributor at linebacker. So I think that I would categorize this as natural attrition. And that's something that's new that we're having to deal with in college football. I think the Texas personnel staff has a handle on it. That's my read and how I feel about it. All right, look, that's going to do it for today. We got some more comments or more content coming up later today. Jerry's going to have a recruiting discussion. It'll focus a little bit more on these portal situations, as well as Malachi Lee. Maybe look at some 2027s as well that Jerry's been scouting. Then we'll have a nighttime live stream. It'll be with Jeff and CJ Vogel alongside Amanda Atwell. They'll be answering your questions. I also want to mention, guys, if you're looking for last minute shopping and Christmas ideas for stocking stuffers, check out shop.ontexasfootball.com. That is shop.ontexasfootball.com. Hats, mugs, coffee, even from our friends over at Medici Roasting. Make sure you check it all out. Again, shop.ontexasfootball.com. Thank you all for joining us. We miss Blake Monroe. I got to be honest. I miss Blake, man. I don't like having to do all the things behind the scenes. That thing. And now Jerry's putting his reindeer hat back on so he can continue with his day.
Somebody's got to be festive here.
I believe, Jerry, whatever that means behind you. I get it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. For CJ Vogel, for Jerry Hamilton. Also, thank you very much to our friend Bob Shipley stopping by this morning with some good stories. I'm Bobby Burton. You guys have a good one. Hook 'em horns.